in 1971 that the first typology of medieval amphora based on their morphology was published, and the jars under consideration are set in type 21, and two variants were identified. These are the jars in the middle, down part. And more detailed information, not only about their morphological features, but also about their fabric, is provided. In 1989, two typologies of medieval amphora by Harilaus Vakerzis and by Nargis Günsenin got published in the volume of the Bulletin de correspondance hellénique, supplement 18. It is though Günsenin's one that have become so popular that even today Middle and Late Byzantine amphora are named after her. In the article, she presents four main medieval amphora types, and one from our case study is the Günsenin II type. Non-topological varieties of the type are mentioned, and consequently the published images, which are in fact the Günsenin IIa type, became reference for the classical Günsenin II type. Nargis Günsenin's typology is more refined in her PhD studies from 1990, where she puts forward 28 amphora types. The Günsenin II type is divided into Günsenin IIa and Günsenin IIb type, which differ one from another by the way the rings and the handles are shaped. But there are also the Günsenin I to III and Günsenin II to III types, representing a kind of transition between the main Günsenin I and III and Günsenin II and III types respectively. Unfortunately, this typology did not receive wide scholarly circulation and was not accessible for many years. And this is only recently that this typology was perfected, and it was published as a separate article, and here you can see a better quality images. After the 1990s, many other typologies of amphorae from different sites were published. Some of the classifications, such as John Hayes' one on the materials from Sergey ZELENKO, are also quite popular. I'm not going, though, to get into details about them, since this is not my point. For the sake of convenience, as all other scholars, I will use the Günsenin typology as a reference point when speaking about the Novy Svet amphorae, but would like to say that I will not use the term of type, since, as you will see later on this presentation, one should not refer to medieval amphora as types, but rather as classes or another high-ranking taxonomic term, because they represent a huge assemblage of jars of different types. When some 10 years ago I was working on medieval amphora for my PhD thesis, I noticed that actually the Günsenin II amphora were very diverse, not only in terms of shape, but also in terms of fabric. There were no two amphora alike in the way the rim, handles, and bodies were shaped, while the fabric was hard, mixed with single well-visible line particles and sometimes organics, orange red, red-brown, or even purplish-brown color up to fiery, sometimes with a lighter creamish or creamy-greenish outer surface resembling the slip, or it was soft, chalk-like soapy fabric mixed with or without rock, mollusks, lime particles, and with a light color, pale yellow, pale orange, pink. While for the Günsenin I, III, and IV, that looked more uniform, especially the Günsenin III amphora, in terms of fabric and at a certain point in terms of shape, one would have assumed that there was only one production center. The Günsenin II were noticeably heterogeneous. My attempt to establish an evolutionary sequence of the shapes and bind them to certain time periods, as done for the Günsenin I and partially for the Günsenin IV, failed since it looked at the Günsenin II amphora with different morphological features and fabrics coexisted. That is why I assumed that they came from different production centers. Speaking of production centers, the only archaeologically studied production center for the Middle and Late Byzantine periods remained the ceramic workshops around Ganos, the northern shore of the Sea of Marmara, where the Günsenin I jars were produced. As for the rest of the Middle and Late Byzantine amphora, until recently, there are only suggestions and supposition for the location of their production centers. In the case of the Günsenin II, the following hypotheses can be listed. Local production of ancient ceramic workshops in the Black Sea region, Trabzon or Tria. The first step towards the identification of the origin of the main Middle and Late Byzantine amphora was made in 2016 when samples from the Günsenin II and Günsenin III and some traditional Günsenin I to III amphora from the excavations in Chalkis, Thebes and the countryside of Chalkis, Greece, were subjected to chemical analysis of the fabric. These analyses, as all other that will be presented further, were performed by my co-author, Dr. Yona WAKSMAN, at the Laboratory of Archaeology and Archaeometry at the Centre National de Recherche Scientifique and the University of Lyon. The main idea behind the sampling was to compare the results with the chemical reference books of the two established ceramic workshops, Chalkis and Thebes, from which kiln furniture, pottery wasters, and tableware were already sampled. This is the main reason in production, and the results were published in 2014. When sampling the amphora, we tried to establish some correlation between the morphological characteristic of the jars and their fabric that would have allowed the future determining the origin of the amphora without having to perform chemical analysis. The chemical analysis showed that some of the Günsenin II and II to III amphora were produced in Chalkis, while others pointed out to another, yet unidentified chemically and archaeologically production center. Both production centers produced Günsenin II, this is the Günsenin II-A, and the traditional Günsenin I to III jars. As you can see, there is a distinct diversity among amphora, especially in Günsenin I to III jars, in the way their rims, handles, and bodies were shaped. It shall be noted that also the fabric of the Günsenin II-A is hard, mixed with considerable amount of single small-sized and large-sized lime particles. The color after firing had turned mainly to yellowish red or reddish yellow, but also pink and light reddish brown. There are traces of organics in the fabric of the handles of some of the specimens. The fabric of some of the Günsenin I to III jars is hard, mixed with many single small-sized and large-sized lime particles, and the color of the firing has turned mainly to reddish yellow. But also there is a pink to light reddish brown variety. There is a large amount of organics, probably straw, in the fabric of the handles. The only specimen differing from the other amphora, not only from a morphological point of view, but also in terms of fabric, is the one up there in the center. How to make it work? I don't know. So this is this small on the right in the center, which has a relatively hard but salty fabric that is mixed with large amount of organics, rock particles, and single mollusks. No slip on the outer surface of any of the presented vessels was observed. The same year, a batch of 13 Günsenin II-A, II-B, and II to III amphora from the 10th to 11th centuries Novy Svet shipwreck was subjected to chemical analysis in order to define their provenance. This particular shipwreck is of utmost importance since the presence of different varieties of Günsenin II and II to III amphora in the same context proves that there is no formal evolutionary sequence of the jars, as previously suggested, and containers whose rims, lips, handles, and bodies were shaped differently actually coexisted. The results confirmed that the Günsenin II, II to III were produced in both Chalkis and the unidentified production center that appeared during the pre-2016 sampling. This time it was obvious that Chalkis was producing not only the Günsenin II-A but also the Günsenin II-B and the II to III varieties, while the unknown center was producing only the Günsenin II-A and B. Again, a typological diversity among the groups is well visible. In terms of fabric, it should be noted that the fabric for all samples was hard, light reddish brown, light red, reddish yellow, and rarely pink in color. The inclusions were either a large amount of small and single large lime particles or a very fine sand. Sometimes there would be voids left from burnt organics mixed with the fabric on the necks and handles. No slip was detected on the outer surface. No variations of the chalky soft fabric were documented, with exception of this example, for which the fabric was hard, light red in color, mixed with some fine sand of organics, but with a salty touch. Some shortcomings of the sampling, such as that the samples were selected quite randomly and no consideration of the morphological diversity was respected, should be noted. Thus, the Günsenin II to III jars were outnumbered in terms of samples by the Günsenin II A and B. That is why we decided to perform another sampling of the Günsenin II and II amphora from Novy Svet in order to test if any relationship between the formal characteristics of the jars and production centers could be established. This time, a due consideration of the morphological specifics was applied when choosing samples, so that all typological diversity is equally represented, and an emphasis was put on the Günsenin II to III jars, which were underrepresented during the previous sampling. The results from the new analysis showed the following. Some of the Günsenin II A, B, and II to III were produced in Halkis. Others were produced in the unidentified production center that was spotted during both previous samplings, also producing all three varieties. But the new thing is that another, third, also yet unidentified production center was ruled out. Again, no relation between the morphological characteristics of the amphora and the different production centers could have been established. In terms of fabric, with the exception of this example, whose fabric was hard, mixed with fine sand, reddish yellow in color, but with a soapy touch, all other jars were made of hard fabric mixed with fine sand, where the inclusions were of 1 millimeter and only single particles, larger particles with white or dark color were spotted. No line particles or organics were detected as admixtures. This time the color after firing differed from yellowish red, reddish yellow, reddish brown, very pale yellow, pale brown, brown and grayish brown to gray. Saying all this, we started asking ourselves the question, why typologically diverse amphora would have been produced in one and the same production center, and all production centers would have produced the same set of jars. Here, I would like to thank Fred Van Doorn Jr. for sharing with me the still unpublished results of his long-lasting studies on the late Roman II amphora from the Sada shipwreck and the Günsenin I amphora from the Sicilia, and also the Günsenin IV from the Çamlıca shipwrecks, and also for allowing me to use them in my research. As his work showed, as early as the 7th century, general standardization of Byzantine amphora was created, where different production centers were producing the same set of amphora, and vessels differed one from another based on their weight capacity sizes. These weight capacity sizes reflected not only the volume of the jars, but also the content they initially were made for. The jars were created to transport specific products such as provisions for the army, mainly different kinds of wine, but also grain, as pointed by the study of Elizabeth Garber. Fred Van Doorn actually established that in order for the tax employees and both merchants and customers to easily recognize the capacity and the content of the amphora, there were hints such as the different shaping of the rims, necks, and body decoration. In this way, a certain look corresponded to a certain weight capacity and respectively content. Since the system persisted from the 7th to the 13th century, for sure, we are inclined to think that actually the differences in shaping the rims, lip handles, and bodies of the Günsenin II, I to III, and II to III amphora, and the fact that all varieties were produced in the same production centers is linked to the different weight capacity sizes, thus making them easily recognizable and corresponding to an overall standardization in the production of these amphora in the Byzantine world and the Mediterranean. Consequently, several production centers were producing the same shapes of amphora that obeyed certain standards. It is still possible that there is a chronological gap between some of the Günsenin II and II to III amphora varieties. Some of them might be earlier than others, but still the fact that they have been found together in the cargo of the ships means that both older and newer versions circulated together and consequently corresponded to a unified system of measurements. Amphora reuse is not an unusual phenomenon, since actually it is not the jars that were traded, but the content, and the jar could have been used as packaging as long as it was good enough to do it, as is demonstrated by the Sicilia containers. Finding amphora produced in different time periods together in the same cargo is also evidenced by the Sada shipwreck. The presence of graffiti on some of the Novy Svet amphora proves that they have been used more than once. Of course, what I'm presenting here is just a hypothesis. Unfortunately, the Novy Svet shipwreck lacks completely preserved vessels that could have allowed testing this hypothesis by physically measuring their capacities, and there is no other shipwreck containing the Günsenin II and transitional amphora that has been entirely excavated. Consequently, further research is required in order to confirm or reject our assumption. Some years ago, a Russian underwater archaeologist located a ship with Günsenin II and III jars sunk on the Crimean coast near Balaclava. The problem is that the ship is located at a great depth that does not allow being excavated, and only 5 amphorae have been lifted to the surface by using a mechanical hand. Still, we do hope that now that we've set the direction, in the future it will be possible to find, excavate, and measure all preserved amphorae to see if we are on the right path. Another line to follow for the future studies will be to continue sampling amphorae from chemical analysis in order to define how many production centers did exist, what was the set of amphorae that they produced, and what was the share of the market of each production center. It is also necessary to sample the amphorae made of chalky fabric in order to see where they have been produced. On behalf of my co-authors, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Muchas gracias, Evelina, por tu presentación, por esta actualización necesaria y por esta reinterpretación de este registro conocido, pero a la que se han dado nuevas respuestas, incluso se han formulado nuevas preguntas mediante técnicas recientes. Muchas gracias y damos pie a la siguiente presentación, que va a presentar José Ángel González Ballesteros en nombre de un equipo formado por Elena Molina, Jorge A y Mireia CELMA. Nos va a presentar el análisis de residuos orgánicos de un conjunto cerámico, en este caso de San Esteban. Cuando quieras.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, lo primero de todo es agradecer a la organización la aceptación de esta comunicación. Bueno, estoy aquí representando a este grupo que por desgracia no ha podido acudir ninguno de ellos. Y en principio también disculpar sobre todo a Elena Molina, que hubiese sido la persona que hubiese hecho la lectura de esta comunicación y bueno, y dentro de, bueno, pues me ha correspondido al final a mí presentarles un poquito este planteamiento tanto metodológico como de resultados. Y más o menos, pues ese es un poco el planteamiento que hemos venido a presentar. Un poco una experiencia de trabajo de campo y de obtención de resultados a partir de lo que es el análisis de residuos orgánicos. Bueno, el yacimiento, o en este caso el conjunto arqueológico de San Esteban, ha sido un poquito ha sido el escenario de nuestro trabajo. Es una parcela que se circunscribe en el actual centro urbano de la ciudad de Murcia y que fue una de las principales ciudades de época islámica entre los siglos IX y primera mitad del XIII. En este caso, nuestra zona, sobre todo a partir del siglo XI, hay una conformación de todo un arrabal, conocido como el arrabal de la Risaca, y en este lugar pues, se enmarca esta parcela. Bueno, la historia de este lugar tiene bastante embrollo. Primero porque en el año 2009 la ciudad se planteó justo en lo que era una antigua plaza, la conocida plaza de San Esteban, se proyectó un aparcamiento subterráneo. Eso durante el año 2009. Claro, estos restos actualmente se observan a una profundidad de 3,5 metros con respecto al actual nivel de calle de la ciudad. Claro, en el momento en el que se empezó a destapar, a descubrir lo que era el barrio, bueno, el conjunto urbano islámico, hubo una gran movilización urbana para su conservación, porque en principio el proyecto era ir desmontando todo el conjunto y la construcción de ese aparcamiento. Gracias a esa movilización urbana, ciudadana, gracias a esa movilización ciudadana, se paralizó todo el proyecto de construcción del aparcamiento y se catalogó como bien de interés cultural y desde entonces se ha convertido en un lugar de estudio y de investigación. Aunque como estas cosas siempre van poquito a poco, no sería hasta el año 2018 cuando un proyecto de la Universidad de Murcia, encabezado por el profesor Jorge A. Rodríguez, pudimos ya empezar a trabajar desde ya planteamientos de investigación y de conservación. Con los números pueden observar las zonas donde hemos ido trabajando. Pero bueno, no quiero tampoco liar, que si no el tiempo corre y ya la tengo liada. Bueno, todo el proyecto se enmarcó en todo un trabajo interdisciplinar y en este caso uno de estos trabajos en colaboración con el Instituto de Ciencia y Tecnología Ambiental de la Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, desarrollamos un trabajo de análisis de residuos orgánicos, encabezado por la doctora Elena MOLINA. Claro, más o menos, pues, los residuos orgánicos pues, podemos encontrarlos visibles o invisibles, es decir, pueden haber partículas atómicas adheridas a las piezas y en eso es un poco el trabajo que intentamos desarrollar, sobre todo planteando un análisis desde los propios contextos arqueológicos. Es decir, no solo fue un tema procedimental de analizar piezas, sino realmente intentar analizarlos desde el propio contexto de hallazgo y de aparición. Es una técnica que, bueno, que es decir, que en arqueología, en cronologías prehistóricas, está muy trabajado, muy desarrollado y sobre todo, bueno, pues se realiza sobre todo pues, a través de análisis químico, de cromatografía de gases o de cromatografía de gases acoplada a un espectrómetro de masas y el análisis isotópico. Bueno, más o menos un poco lo que apuntaba sobre los lugares de hallazgo, en este caso, pues unos ejemplos que la doctora Elena pues, ha facilitado para su comprensión. Y luego, pues más o menos, ¿qué es lo que se puede llegar a detectar en este tipo de análisis? Pues sobre todo sustancias tanto de origen animal como vegetal. Y un poco más o menos lo que es el centro de la comunicación es estos planteamientos de trabajo y de qué procedimientos, por ejemplo, en nuestro caso, hemos ido llevando a cabo. Sobre todo hay un tema muy importante cuando se trabaja en campo y es tomar las medidas adecuadas para evitar contaminación. Es muy importante porque luego los resultados pueden llevar mucho ruido e impedir una buena lectura de este procedimiento, de estas técnicas. Entonces, sobre todo hay que establecer, por un lado, un protocolo de medidas en el propio yacimiento a la hora de coger esas muestras que luego en laboratorio iremos a analizar. Y luego, cuando es difícil, por el tamaño de una pieza o por cualquier otra circunstancia, tener esas medidas para su análisis. Luego, para poder llevarlo al laboratorio, también hay que llevar toda una serie de protocolos para su estudio posterior. Que en este caso, como pueden ver en la diapositiva, pues implica toda una serie de medidas. Sobre todo también hay que tener en cuenta a la hora de seleccionar muestras que cuando atacamos directamente sobre la pieza es una técnica muy agresiva, porque se extrae de la propia superficie de la pieza esas partículas para luego analizar. Por lo tanto, hay que tener una buena planificación y hay que tener una buena, sobre todo, saber qué es lo que queremos analizar, porque le vamos a producir, como muchas de las técnicas arqueométricas pasan, vamos a dañar esa pieza. Bueno, más o menos esto es un poquito el resumen sobre los objetivos de este procedimiento, que es establecer protocolos para garantizar el muestreo, recuperar muestras de tipologías cerámicas significativas en las fases de excavación y laboratorio, proceder al análisis de residuos de los objetos seleccionados, contrastar la funcionalidad determinada a partir de la tipología y revisar la significación de los resultados para nuestro campo. Un poco el muestreo que hemos llegado a realizar, lo tienen aquí reflejado, pues, es decir, tenemos, bueno, en uno de los espacios tuvimos la oportunidad de excavar todo un... Bueno, en esta zona de aquí este espacio, tuvimos un contexto muy interesante de fragmentación cerámica, un gran conjunto, apareció, vamos, una gran distribución, de la cual pudimos remontar toda una serie de piezas, que son esta L de aquí, y de la cual pudimos obtener una serie de resultados. Luego, otro elemento que también fue muy interesante fue en este lugar, ya que encontramos esta marmita de la primera mitad del XIIIth en posición. De ahí que luego planteásemos pues, este tipo, después de su recuperación de muestras, pues planteásemos su análisis. Y más o menos los resultados que pudimos obtener fue que mostraron una suficiente presencia de ácidos grasos para luego elaborar su posterior análisis isotópico. Los resultados que pueden reflejar en estos dos casos, por ejemplo, son muy interesantes, primero, porque en este primer caso se trata de un atalfor vidriado, un vidriado blanco, por lo tanto apostamos por intentar determinar a partir de esa superficie vidriada que en principio, ante la ausencia de porosidad, podía no marcar conservación de ese tipo de residuos. Y luego, por otro lado, un análisis de esta pieza, de una jarra, que en principio, dada su porosidad, también podía ser ventajosa para determinar qué tipo de contenido pudo tener. Lo interesante es que en el caso de la jarra nos llegó a marcar una serie de marcadores de ácidos grasos que nos implican un resultado bastante interesante, sobre todo por no corresponder con lo que en principio debería de ser, que es un contenido de agua según su morfología y sus características técnicas. Estos otros dos elementos fue también muy interesante también por dos circunstancias. Primero, el que esta marmita estaba también vidriada al interior y luego esta cazuela que marca también una cronología precedente y previa a esta otra marmita. Precisamente porque el propio edificio donde hemos ido haciendo la excavación marca una evolución constructiva en la cual pues, hemos podido ir determinando diferentes materiales asociados al edificio. Luego finalmente hicimos porque se presentó un alto grado de conservación de este tipo de piezas que normalmente estos trípodes suelen tener una gran complejidad funcional en cuanto por ejemplo, en este caso, no hay identificación de marcas de fuego, por lo tanto, su asociación con pebeteros o con braseros se podía descartar. Y, claro, intentamos ver si realmente podíamos conseguir un resultado que nos aclarara un poquito el tema sobre su funcionalidad. Bueno, estos son un poco las gráficas de los resultados que hemos podido, que en este caso, bueno, desde el Instituto de la Universidad Autónoma nos han proporcionado con la identificación de grasa animal. Y lo interesante aquí me tienen que disculpar porque realmente la especialista de química es Elena y más o menos yo lo único que estoy haciendo es un poco mostrarle esos resultados y más o menos dar un poquito las valoraciones y las conclusiones. Y en este caso, pues, según estas conclusiones que podemos tener aquí, es la ausencia es la presencia de rumiantes dentro de lo que son los residuos orgánicos que se han podido detectar y que en este caso, pues, como síntesis, la validez de estos resultados de cara a su cotejo con otro tipo de información, ya sean fuentes escritas, temas tipológicos, fauna y demás que nos puedan dar un mayor detalle sobre tanto funcionalidad de estas piezas como un poco el contexto. Y sobre todo, bueno, para finalizar, pues a nivel metodológico, la utilidad que tiene este tipo de técnicas de análisis y sobre todo pues, intentar caracterizar a nivel funcional y de contenido estas piezas. Sí. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, José Ángel, por tu presentación, and thanks also for just representing with your work the arrival of these techniques to medieval and post-medieval archaeology, and also for showing how we can reach new information with these techniques. So, I think I have identified it, please, Anna, we call Anna de Vicens, who is going to present her work about how she manages to identify pottery through historical photographs. So we are sure willing to see the photographs and how you manage to do so. The floor is yours.
Okay, so first, thank you very much for the organizers to have gotten us out of isolation so that we can meet again and yes, be together again after 2 years of not being able to, except for Zoom, which we have seen that is not easy. I will try to do something different today. We have seen a lot of XRF and all these things, which are very necessary, but I have tried to do something completely different. And yeah, first of all, enjoy the photographs. I think it's fun. So in recent years, the study of late Ottoman period pottery has become a focus in what was Ottoman Palestine, today Israel. Due to many salvage excavations, many sites, such as ancient Jaffa and Jerusalem, have revealed their late Ottoman past. With the excavations came a large amount of material culture, from ceramic and porcelain tableware to smoking implements, glass vessels, and other items of daily use. This constituted a new challenge for archaeologists and researchers in Israel, since historical archaeology has not been the country's forte. New methodologies had to be adopted. The late Ottoman period assemblages comprise tableware and kitchen vessels, architectural elements such as roof tiles, bricks, floor tiles, vaulting elements, and air pipes. Smoking pipes and ceramic heads of nargile water pipes have also been found. Large-scale excavations within the Ottoman military compound in Jaffa, as well as from other recent excavations in Jaffa, provided the basis for a large ceramic corpus, both for imported as well as for locally produced pottery types. Much of the research concerning imported porcelain and refined earthenware vessels was retrieved from online resources, including databases of American, Canadian, New Zealand universities, Australian universities as well, where historical archaeology is thriving. In addition, Swiss and German salvage excavations have generated many helpful reports on European material. The information gleaned from these scientific databases were complemented by information from auction or collectors' websites. The latter aided in the identification of certain vessel types, the shapes and decoration, especially considering the fragmentary state of much of the ceramic material from salvage excavations. While studying late Ottoman ceramics, and especially smoking pipes and coffee cups, I came across many historical photographs showing such items together with the people using them. From here, the idea was born to try to use historical photographs to identify vessels found on excavations. This presentation is an attempt to do this and to show that it is actually possible to find correlations between excavated material and vessels represented on historical photographs. I will show different photographs and try to match the vessels shown on them with those from excavation. I'm limiting myself to locally made vessels with a few imported ones at the end of the presentation. Most of the vessels were found in excavations in Jaffa, a few come from Jerusalem and surroundings. So I will start with my background photo. These two photographs were taken by a photographer of the American colony in Jerusalem and show ladies and girls on their way to the well. There are several variants of the photograph showing the ladies in different positions, an indication probably that the photo was staged. The jar that they're carrying nonchalantly on their heads is called jara in Arabic and is back-shaped with two band handles. So these are the drawings of the jars found in Jaffa. When the jar is full of water, it is carried upright. While, as in the photo, when it is empty, it can be carried horizontally. A different type with swollen neck are jaras used at the well and when transporting water long distance. The water was carried in a jara in a special holder on a donkey or camel. Different jar rims from excavations in Jaffa are shown here on the as drawings. And you can see actually that it totally matches. It's exactly this, the jara on the donkey is exactly the large fragment that I'm showing here. The subject of women carrying jars from or to the well was very common among photographers in the late 19th century. And water jars are frequently found on excavation in many variations, of which I'm showing two. The group of women are carrying jars. They are. While the young woman on the right carries an aslie, which is also a water jar, but a bit smaller in size. And here you have rims. We did not find a complete vessel, but we have the rims of these aslies. On this photograph, which is clearly posed, you can see two boys, one with a jara, this again, while the younger or smaller one carries an aslie, which you have seen before. The pioneer is quenching his thirst from a jara, inscribed in Hebrew, while the Bedouin lady carries an aslie on her head. At the well, a vessel called delu was used to draw the water. The vessels are between 30 to 45 centimeters high, have two handles through which a rope is tied to pull it up from the well. On the background of the photo, you can see Bethlehem. So we have seen the vessels to draw and carry the water from the well. In the homes, the water was stored in large containers called zir. The zir containing water was situated in the courtyard, as in the photo here, or near the door of the house, or on a special wooden stand. Here it is. So many variants exist of these zirs, and they were mainly made by men or women for their own household, as you can see here on the historical photographs. The zir was filled near the house, either by the women who brought the water from the well, of which I didn't find a photograph, or by water sellers carrying the water in a sheep or goat skin. And these are photos from Egypt, this time not from Palestine. So we never found a complete zir on excavation, but extremely large rims were associated with such vessels. The rims on the right side actually are very similar to the ones on the photograph, the upper ones. But the best known vessel of the Ottoman period is the brik. It is a water pouring or even drinking vessel. It has a narrow neck with two small loop handles drawn from the base of the neck and a spout positioned near one of the handles. The brik is also the most common vessel found on excavation. Here you are. All these are from Jaffa. As you can see, they are also painted. Some are painted white. Many of them are painted. They're actually slip painted, and then the orange or pink color is added on top. The next vessel that I'm showing is a vessel which is used for storing cheese, leaven, or butter, and is called burnier. Burnier jars have an ovoid body narrowing to the top and an inverted ledge rim similar to a cooking pot. Two large handles are drawn from below the rim to the body. No complete examples were found, but I would suggest that these burniers are pretty similar to the one the lady is holding on the photograph. Bowls, small to medium bowls, are called zediyeh and are present in many different shapes and are found in many different fragments of excavations. And I'm showing a few complete ones which were found in Jerusalem. Medium to large bowls are called kashkul. And interesting enough, the photo The caption of the photograph says that the bowls here were used for the production of gunpowder when evaporating the liquid. Normally, however, the bowls are used for serving food at the table, obviously. They're found complete or mainly rims, actually. As for the above-mentioned zir, the storage vessel, cooking pots were handmade mainly by women of the family or the clan. They are coarse, with large ear handles, and are frequently found on excavation, especially the handles. Not showing you here. 2 pots, and the lady with the basket on her head, as you can see, is carrying cooking pots, probably to be sold in the local market. So these 3 women are sitting in front of the house with basketry and clay vessels. A brick, here it is. Another brick with a broken top is found there. Then we have a jarra, this one here. Another jarra leaning on the wall. A jarra with a long neck. And the last jug here did not find a parallel on excavation, but was probably another one of those pouring vessels. Oh, sorry. So now I would like to show you some of some imported vessels, like cooking pots, coffee cups, and nargile and tobacco pipes. The street seller from Istanbul, or Constantinople more correctly, on this photo sells cooking vessels in his basket. One of the vessels is a deep casserole, glazed brown on the inside, with large band handles under the rim. These cooking pots are known to have been produced on Greek islands, such as Pyros. Here you can see a drawing of such a cooking pot. The inscription was read wrong because the lady who drew it doesn't know Greek, so she could not identify the letters. Other cooking pots, however, come also from Valoris in southern France and reached Ottoman Palestine. Here we have drawings of such vessels. I am just suggesting that they are from Valoris. They could indeed be also from the Greek islands, because most of them are not stamped except this Greek example. Glazed imported cooking pots were a common item in Ottoman Palestinian household and are found very frequently on excavations. We're going to go back to the 4 guys sitting in front of the wall in Constantinople. 2 of them hold a typical handleless Turkish coffee cup. In front, you see the little star is a copper or brass coffee cup pot, and next to it is a glazed water jug. Thousands of complete and fragmentary coffee cups were found on excavation in Jaffa, Jerusalem, and other places. And here you have drawings of them. Many different variations, undecorated and decorated. All of them, I would suggest, are imported from various places in Europe, especially Germany and also Italy. Complete cups bearing factory mark and stamps were retrieved, as these 2, the upper one from Italy and the lower one from Germany. A street coffee vendor with 4 clients. Each of them holds a coffee cup. 2 of them a European style coffee cup with a handle, while the man in the middle holds a typical Turkish cup, which even seems to be decorated, like this one that we found in Jerusalem. Wide faceted coffee cups with handles are commonly found in excavations, and I think this looks pretty similar to what we have. Simple white coffee cups with elaborate handles were also quite common. People smoking is a common theme in 19th century photography. rather to say men smoking is a common theme. Men are leisurely depicted, are leisurely depicted smoking and drinking coffee. They smoke the nargile or the chibuk. Both types are commonly found on excavation and can easily be matched up with the photographs. This amazing photograph is called Society of Men of Sarajevo. A group of men smoking nargile, chibuk, and also cigarettes. When you look closely, you can see it. On closer inspection, the nargile seems to be made of porcelain, just like one found in Jaffa. Nicely painted also. And the chibuks are probably the red Tophana types. The young man on the right is serving coffee in European-style handled cups. However, I could not identify anything similar on excavation. Two Bedouin chefs are smoking typical heavy chibuk pipes, most probably locally made in Palestine. We have many of them on excavations. I'm concluding with my favorite photograph. He's a street seller, coffee seller in Istanbul, in Constantinople. And many variants of this photograph exist, and the guy is always making faces. On the first photo, he's drinking his coffee from what seems to be a decorated porcelain cup. Maybe similar to Chinese porcelain cups found in Jaffa, like these. On the second photograph, he's smoking his small chibuk pipe. It's my favorite photograph. I love his attitude. I think he's absolutely super funny with his little everything. I mean, he's totally funny. So I think he really clearly enjoyed the photo session. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And thank you very much for your attention.
Muchísimas gracias, Ana, por tu presentación y perdonar si la aparición fantasmagórica de mi voz. Gracias por traernos estas fotos, por estimularlos tan con ellas, ¿no? Y por traer a esa gente también que estaba debajo de la cerámica al lado. Muchas veces estudiamos la cerámica y nos olvidamos de esta gente que han estado muy presentes en tus fotografías. Gracias. And now we move to the last paper of the session. It's by a group of people, and only some of them are here, even me. I'm not going to give a preference to them because I know the paper, but and I also have to introduce Roberta Mentesana, who is going to also add to the presenters. So, yours the floor.
Okay, good morning everyone. Still again here. I will ask for an extra salary, extra money to my boss. Yeah, we will present today part of a study, which is part of a project, which is called Technologian Project, which has been funded again this year. So very happy to continue the research. And the Technologian project is about the impact of the Spanish colonization in the Americas. And as you will know, the expansion of the Crown of Castile had two different lines. So the first one going to Canary Island, and from there to the Caribbean Sea, following the trade winds. And this was proper colonial expansion. And the motivation was to conquer new territories. And this line was very soon controlled by Seville, thanks to the establishment of la Casa de la Contratación. They were centralizing all contacts to and from the territories. And as a result, Seville became one of the most important towns in Europe and one of the main production centers of pottery, as you know. And the second line went from the Cantabric Sea to the Newfoundland and Quebec, and was open to the Basque Waylanders. So there was no formal conquest, but they had a permanent settlement in what nowadays is Canada. And so this is a map with the countries under study and a list, there is a list of different types of pottery. So let's go to it. So the places includes Morocco, Northern Europe, the Canary Islands, Americas, and the kind of ceramics studied includes Maiolica, courseware, glaze courseware, transport jars, and sugar cones.
Sí, en este trabajo se analizan muestras de Asturias. Decir que Asturias en este momento, entre la Baja Edad Media y la Edad Moderna, forma parte de la Corona de Castilla y está localizada en el noroeste de la península ibérica, en la costa del mar Cantábrico. Los estudios arqueológicos que se vienen desarrollando en esta región han permitido ver que está integrada en unas redes de comercio internacional ya desde época medieval. Estos estudios han revelado la rica y diversa cultura material cerámica que llega desde puntos diversos tanto del norte como sur de Europa y también de Asia y de América. Estos estudios han sido realizados desde un punto de vista arqueológico y arqueométricamente se avanzan por primera vez en esta investigación. De hecho, el único área de la costa cantábrica que ha sido estudiada en profundidad dentro del proyecto Tecnolonial es el País Vasco y queremos a través de esta comunicación sumarle Asturias. El trabajo que se presenta aborda el estudio arqueométrico de 35 individuos cerámicos que provienen de 11 excavaciones arqueológicas realizadas en 4 puntos de Asturias. Los contextos que se presentan han sido datados desde el siglo XIII hasta el siglo XVII. Oviedo es la capital del Principado de Asturias. Avilés y Gijón son 2 puertos importantes y a esto le sumamos la villa de Castropol en la unión de Asturias y Galicia. Todas estas excavaciones están localizadas en el centro histórico de la ciudad, en los cascos históricos, y se ha tratado de reflejar la diversidad que tiene Asturias en cuanto a núcleos urbanos, pequeñas villas, puertos y lugares tanto en la costa como en el interior, al oeste y al centro de la región.
So what you see here, they sampled 35 ceramics, 35 individuals of glaze and glaze courseware and Maiolica for these 4 different sites. Castropol, Oviedo, help me with the
Gijón.
Gracias. Yes. And as usual in our team, they've been characterized by chemical analysis with XRF and mineralogically by XRD. And the result of chemical analysis, as I said, this protocol has been already published. So the result of chemical analysis belong to the composition data, and all the chemical data being transformed using central logarithm transformation. The data, it's quite polygenic, so multiple groups could be distinguished. Total variation is quite high, 5.3 is quite high. And there is contribution of all the elements to distinguish the group. Above all, calcium is one of the elements which really have a role in distinguishing 2 groups. And there is the calcareous ceramics, it's mainly Maiolica, the main Maiolica wares, while the glaze courseware are in the low calcareous groups, except 2 samples. Here you find a dendrogram, which show a clear difference between calcareous, which you see here on the left, so up to the yellow group, and the local carriers samples, which are on the right, so from the green to the blue ones. They could distinguish 12 different chemical groups are defined, and the local carriers one, so all the right ones, show high variability. This is just to show you that the groups are quite well distinguished. Calcium is one of the main elements which help this to distinguish them, and also magnesium. The samples have been compared with, as I told you yesterday, we have a huge database of ceramics, and the chemical data have been matched with those we already had with known provenance. And 7 groups have been related to existing reference groups: Talavera, Sevilla, Muel, Valencia area, Cártama, Bilbao, and Alava. So the samples, the individual sample you see here is very small, I know, but you see them on the with arrows. So there are some arrows, and those which are included in the colored groups, like for example the Sevilla one, which is yellow. So these. Okay, so the samples, the ceramic sampled for these work, they are with the arrows, and some of them are the match perfectly groups already we had, like this one from Sevilla, Talavera, there is one from Cártama. All the others which are out, like this one, they are lower. So we don't know exactly, don't match anything that was in our dendrogram. And this is like a ceramic triangle, just very quickly show you there is a clear distinction between the calcareous ceramics and the local calcareous ceramics. And we already know that this also match with the type of ceramic sample, the Ionica and the coarse crespa. Now we go to the results. This individual, ICD-023, is compatible with analyses and the workshop of Carrer Soqueros in Valencia. And it's a last away from Oviedo in context of the 16th and 17th centuries. And there was the temperature of firing is estimated, is quite high, estimated around 1,500. These individuals you see here are from Oviedo, and just one is from Gijón. Sorry. And these contexts are from the 15th and 16th century. The first one line, you see they have a medium temperature firing, 850, while the lower one have been fired at higher temperature. The individual from Asturias 015 from Oviedo, from context 16th, 17th century, actually come from Talavera, and also this was high fired. And there is also another samples which come also from Oviedo, from a context 16th, 17th century, but it was produced in Nuel. And its firing temperature is 815 and 20 degrees. Then we have two individuals from Castropol, from context the 15th, 17th century, which actually were produced in Cártama, and their firing temperature is lower than 150s. Then we come with the samples which we really don't know where they were produced. One is a blue and white Ionica from Oviedo in context the 15th, 16th century, and it's high fired as the others. And then we have this sample 006 from Gijón, and the 33 from Oviedo, recovered in context of the 13th, 16th centuries. That might come from Bilbao. And it's they're firing also quite high fired. Then we have this individual, which is classified in the Basque recipe BP2A, to ask me what it is, located in the undetermined place of Alavara or Vizcaya. There's a covered castropole in context 16th and 17th century, and it is 5 below 100 degrees. And then we have these other samples from Oviedo, recalling content of the 13th and 15th century. Also, these are quite high-fired. These are well context 13. These are recorded from Amides and from Oviedo. They're covering context of 13th, 16th century, and also these are high-fired but below the 900 degrees. Also in this case, one is from Oviedo and the other from Castropole, the first from 13th, 16th century, the second 15th, 17th centuries. So just to summarize a bit, I will wait for this. So we can see the result of the provenance of the ceramics in each town, and it's clear that Castropole is completely different from all the other sites. The plot of the correspondence analysis show this fact locating Castropole to the right side. So, that's what I'm saying. With the group of Cartama, PB2A, and another loan is only identified in this size. The difference is significant, as shown by the chi-square test. And it's important to show that Amides is also special because of its relationship with a group called FR03, which 3 out of the 5 individuals were recorded here and are the only ceramics from this site. Even though the difference with Vicon and Oviedo is not significant according to the chi-square test, it is obvious that the limited sample can bias the results, as well as the sampling. No coarse clays were sampled in Oviedo, for example. Just to conclude, so for this work, with 35 samples, 35 individuals were sampled, 18 Maiolica and 17 glazed courseware from 4 different sites. The sample studies show high variability, with 12 groups, chemical groups were identified. All Maiolica is calcareous, and the provenance is related to already characterized production center in the Iberian Peninsula. This is Valencia, Sevilla, Talavera, and Muel. There is only one exception whose provenance remains unknown. 2 individuals of glazed courseware are products of Cartama near Malaga, and these are the only calcareous glazed coursewares. The remaining 15 courseware are low calcareous and are related to pests with very low magnesium concentration, in some cases higher aluminium oxides, because of the use of colonitic-based clays that exhibit muline aspiring clays. There's no calcareous clay courseware belong to 6 different groups. 2 of these groups are from the Basque country, Bilbao and Alava Vizcaya, while the other 4 groups are still of unknown origin. So thank you.
Gracias por la presentación. He de decir que estamos absolutamente on time, es decir, son las 12:39. We are just have minutes just to match the program. So thank you to the presenters for their following their time guidelines, and also all of them because they're wonderful and thought-provoking presentations. I really enjoyed with all of them, and I guess the audience also has enjoyed as me on the presentation. So now, even if I know that you are tired and starving, I'm sure, but I'm sure also that you have many questions for the presenters. Por lo que damos comienzo a la ronda de preguntas. We are starting with the first paper, that of Michelangelo MESSINA. Any question?
Intanto grazie mille per la tua presentazione, veramente molto stimolante. Quello insomma, che io credo è che hai ben evidenziato il rapporto possibile tra committenza e artigiani e anche il ruolo dello Stato nel, per esempio, definire gli standard in alcuni casi degli standard delle misure, però credo che ci sia ancora molto da riflettere sul concetto di frontiera, che forse ecco, bisogna definirlo meglio, perché si rischia di avere un concetto troppo rigido di frontiera, mentre spessissimo nel Medioevo le frontiere sono molto porose. Quindi pensando anche alla presentazione di Ciarcifa 2 giorni fa, io ho qualche dubbio su queste frontiere così nette. Dopodiché ci sono tendenze effettivamente diciamo, di areali geografici che hanno caratteristiche omogenee, però diciamo, ridurlo a confini militari può essere diciamo, riduttivo.
Grazie mille per la domanda e per aver sottolineato questo aspetto per il quale devo chiarire in realtà che quando ho parlato per questo motivo di pensiero di Stato, in senso diciamo sociologico e bordosiano in particolare. Quando ci si riferisce appunto quando si parla di pensiero di Stato, essenzialmente si parla di qualcosa di costruito dalla compartecipazione di agenti sociali a capitale diverso appunto di compartecipazione alla definizione dell'universale, ma che appunto all'interno di una frontiera che ho specificato non intendo io personalmente come stretta demarcazione militare, ma appunto come zona, come appunto ho riportato anche specificamente a Randall per questo motivo, in cui in realtà gli agenti sociali hanno l'influenza, la possibilità scelta di compartecipare ai due pensieri di Stato. E quindi in realtà appunto l'inversione del modello core-periphery del pensiero di Stato sta proprio in questo, cioè che in realtà la peculiarità della frontiera è proprio quello di dare la possibilità, questo sul piano storico si può sottolineare in vario modo, andando a vedere un po' ad analizzare le fonti per quanto riguarda aspetti strettamente storici. Sul piano archeologico sicuramente è più difficile, ma io personalmente trovo che comunque essenzialmente questa peculiarità crea diversi, dà agli agenti sociali diversi punti di riferimento dell'uno e dell'altra parte della frontiera, non necessariamente ovviamente delimitabili sul piano del pensiero di Stato di riferimento, ma anzi probabilmente permangono delle istituzioni di frontiera, quali possono essere i monasteri della Sicilia orientale. I monasteri della Sicilia orientale rimangono a lungo delle istituzioni che costituiscono un punto di riferimento per l'Islam e per Bisanzio per gestire le relazioni socio-economiche nel locale e nel sovraregionale. Ci sono appunto, dal mio punto di vista posso dire, c'è una diffusione per esempio delle produzioni che uno dovrebbe definire islamiche nella Sicilia orientale, ma bisogna tenere a mente che comunque proprio la persistenza di questi habitus, di queste costrizioni strutturali che stanno un po' dietro anche alla permanenza di determinate produzioni artigianali, ma anche agricole, tutti gli aspetti agroalimentari, che appunto si manifestano anche nell'evidenza materiale e che per capirne la complessità bisogna appunto andare a vedere il ruolo dei diversi agenti sociali, ed è un po' questo il senso. Purtroppo non è stato, sono sicuro di non essere stato sufficientemente esaustivo sul piano teorico generale, però diciamo che l'idea questa è che la frontiera non sia una demarcazione definita, cioè una linea di demarcazione definita, ma appunto un'area in cui gli agenti sociali che vi abitano hanno diversi punti di riferimento concorrenti non per forza in conflitto, appunto concorrenti nel delimitare questa zona.
¿Alguna otra pregunta para Michelangelo? Any other question? So let's go to the second questions for the second presentation, that of Evelina. ¿Alguna pregunta para la segunda presentación?
Thank you very much, Evelina, for your presentation. And I think it's very important, the point you made, is that before doing analysis, you have to do a very good typology, both of shapes and clays. Only in that way, the analyses are more significant. So I really appreciated your approach.
Thank you very much for your comment. I hope that when we all do analysis, first we select our samples very carefully and know why we are doing that. So in the beginning we had some, as I said, misunderstanding, but later on we corrected the way we did the samples, and I think the results are very interesting, and they will help everyone to understand better not only what we are doing, but also how Byzantine can work. And also, as far as I could understand, because it was in Italian and my Italian was not very good, but what Michelangelo also presented, he also made a point about this, the capacity of the amphorae. So it looks that there was a very good standardization in the Byzantine world, and potters had to make these standards to produce their vessels, not only amphorae, but all the other vessels. So it's not a random thing. Yeah.
I think Yona has something to add because she is a co-author, so I guess it's not a question, but a comment.
Yes, I would like to add something to the answer of Eva, is that actually we don't sample random because nobody can afford to sample random. But the questions evolve, Alessandra. So the questions we initially had for these samples were not those of capacity. And in fact, these questions emerged through other studies, and they were they came into this study of the Novy Svet material thanks to contacts with Frederick von Dornitz's work, I think, mainly, and his studies of the Asiada and Sergey material. And so this is why actually the study itself evolved, and the analysis and the sampling strategy evolved because the questions evolved. So this is also part of the story that I just wanted to complement.
Gracias. ¿Alguna otra cuestión? Pues pasamos a las preguntas para la siguiente presentación, que presentó José Ángel GONZÁLEZ BALLESTEROS. Any question about content analysis presentation? Alessandra, we have to pay you more or something for this.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting, and I was comparing, estaba comparando en mi cabeza los resultados de vuestra análisis del contenido orgánico y la que hemos hecho en Sicilia, en Mazara. Por tanto, el trípode me interesa, ¿no? Porque en Mazara siempre hay grasa animal sobre el borde y en parte en el fondo, ¿no? Y lo que pasa es que, se ha entendido bien, no hay tras de uso. Pero puede ser que hay un otro, porque solo has analizado una muestra, pero
Sí, en este caso, bueno, en ese contexto, hubo dos ejemplares. Uno presenta el que he enseñado, que es el vidriado verde, y otro en vidriado marrón, pero ese lo localizamos luego ya después. Y ese le pasaba lo mismo. Al interior no había ningún tipo de huella de uso. De ahí que ese primer ejemplo que he mostrado tuviese ese valor de intentar ver si había algún tipo de, por ejemplo, que hubiese sido limpiado al interior y de ahí que las trazas de uso hubiesen podido desaparecer. Pero los resultados de este análisis, es más, apuestan más por un valor de materialidad inorgánica, que es bastante interesante a la hora de poder relacionarlo con recipientes, por ejemplo, con agua. Por ejemplo, es decir, que una de las interpretaciones que se puede hacer es que sean calentadores con agua caliente y que sean receptores de una marmita, por ejemplo.
Gracias. ¿Alguna otra pregunta al respecto? Pues damos paso a las preguntas para la presentación de análisis. Any questions for the presentation of Anna? Roberta as well.
Hi, Hannah. It was very interesting. So I missed the first part, so I don't know if you say that. Just a curiosity. If you could see any ceramics related to gender, so you saw the pipe and the coffee cup, and nothing related to women only in the pictures. If you were interested in that, of course.
So thank you for your question. Actually, I did not focus on gender, which is a totally different topic, and it is possible. It's interesting that in the 19th century photographs from Palestine, you have maybe the women carrying the water to the well, and those are photographed. Some of the women, as you can see, are producing vessels, but you don't really see how can I say, a distinction. So the men that I showed are mainly those in Constantinople and not in Palestine. We have very few photographs of men with what I found. Probably there are, but I didn't find them. Using everyday vessels, except the men smoking the pipes. And it's very interesting. I should actually, maybe next time I'll present something more gender related. What I found when I show men smoking pipes, these are more casual and also staged, but less staged. Let's put it this way. When you find women smoking, that's studio photographs, and it's not badly said everyday women. It's actresses, dancers, singers who are photographed in positions and smoking on whatever they're smoking. They're never women in their own house because foreigners, most of the photographers are foreigners. They're not allowed in a private house to photograph the ladies, obviously, at that time. Does that answer your question? Perfect.
And also the ceramics, you said that both women and men were making the water jars.
Yes, you could see that on the photograph. And I was sure it was only women, and then I came across the photograph with a man making it, and okay, so it's not true that it's only women, because usually what we say is that we-made vessels are made by men, and the handmade are made by women. So no, it's not true. Obviously with this photo, although it's possible that it's staged. So we don't know that. Because unfortunately, most of these photographs are not snapshots of real life, but staged for the photographers. We don't know that actually. You can assume that they are staged because many variants exist of one photograph in different positions. You saw it from the women carrying photographs. There are about 6 different variants, and you see one of the ladies laughing, and in another photograph, she has a different attitude and a different position. So that's why I'm thinking that they're mainly staged. They're not snapshots of real life.
Yes, but probably they wouldn't do something which was not proper or allowed.
No, that's for sure, but that's what I'm saying. Women were carrying the water from the well. You're not seeing any photographs with men who carry the jars from or to the well. You see some photographs where they're actually pulling the water, drawing the water from the well, and these are men, obviously, because a full jar is heavy, and the women are waiting to get their water from the well into their personal jar, carrying it back to the village. So it's interesting what's happening there.
Thank you for your comments. In the case of the Basque Country, we have also similar things that people, especially women, wearing on their heads, and they always women in that photograph. So if you're interested, I could send you some photograph of these vessels. Any other comment or ask a question for this poster or this presentation? No. So let's go for the last paper. Questions for Miguel, maybe me. Preguntas sobre la última ponencia. Ok. También deberíamos comentar los pósters. This is also the turn for the posters. And so the posters related to the session are those of Esther Trabe and Sonia Medina about data modeling related to potter production in Catalonia. Fernando Martínez Ávila, Teresa Koppler sobre la datación termoluminiscencia, Andrea Rodríguez, cerámica bajo medieval de la tarde, Ariana Piano, methodology used for the studying the pottery from Toscana, and the last one by a group of people led by Cristina Tamalchi, like Gijón, about the experience of using neutron scattering methods for the ceramics for Constanza. I'm not sure if the authors are with us, but if anyone has any question or comment, it will be, now is the moment. We are all struggling or tired of both. So if no other questions arises, it's the time for going for lunch. I remember that we are back, we should be back here at 3:30. Volvemos a las 3:30. Gracias.
It's so much fun.
Andando via? Alla residenza no. No, no, alla residenza, alla Carmen no. Ah, certo.
Non lo devi ulteriormente, comunque ci sarà un po' di...
Non sentiamo, mi interessa. Adesso stiamo facendo fare l'analisi.
My apologies for cutting your time, but if just was the first one, if you will be the last one, you would have time to talk a lot.
But it was enough.
Yes, that makes no more.
Was perfect.
Yeah, yes, but maybe it happened the contrary. Like the chance, maybe the other one also would extend time. So.
Yeah, who knows?
Like theoretical time. So.
Yeah, who knows?
Theoretical things that I'm preparing.
I